you ready for the truth? Bring it on!
In this present crisis, government is not the solution to our problem. Government is the problem.
Do you want the whole truth?
I don't think you're ready.
Governments don't control things. A government can't control the economy without controlling people.
It's Crane Durham's Nothing But Truth.
Here comes the truth.
Well, good evening, good afternoon, wherever you are. We're really glad you're here. Happy Thursday, Happy New Year. Wow. Let's just give you a preview of what you're about to hear on Crane Durham's Nothing But Truth. Proudly on, say it with me now, everybody together, AFR Talk. Bravo anchor Chris Woodward. He'll be with us the first segment, tomorrow's show. That's a preview. Oh, you mean tonight's show, Crane? I got it. All right. We are going to be hitting Benghazi. You say, Crane, you've hit that a lot. We're going to hit one big lie in the Benghazi story. And we'll also recap what the New York Times revisionism is all about and what its overall goal is. We'll do that in the next hour. We will also be hitting the NBC's medical analyst, chief medical analyst. Yes, Dr. Snyder. Her view of patriotism. That's boring. Why does that matter? Because it speaks to what we're going to hear a lot more of. Did you hear it on NBC or MSNBC? One of the two. They're really not that different. But actually, that topic is for tomorrow, again, with Chris Woodward. So what about what happened in Israel and what's been going on? John Kerry, you heard at the top of our news, American Family News. I believe Chad Groening or Sagar Magani, doing some great reporting there. And this had to do with the prisoner swap. We'll talk about releasing terrorists for peace. Pastor Aaron Free will join us, and he'll give us his perspective on that. Egypt, the Muslim Brotherhood, and Iran, as well as 2014 biblical predictions. Pastor Aaron Free, Afternoons with Aaron. That will actually be right after this. The first segment, we deal with New York's new mayor. That's right, Bill de Blasio. And Bill de Blasio's invocation was from Reverend Fred Lucas of the Brooklyn Community Church. And this was very interesting because it really gave you a sense, if you haven't heard, that de Blasio is a socialist and a far-left loon. Don't do that. That's name-calling. He's a Marxist. All right. Here is the invocation, and you can hear where this is going. Roll it.
Proclamation. Sound forth the trumpets of heaven, proclaiming a new emancipation proclamation in New York City. For your divine leadership, emancipate every New Yorker from the shackles of fear, futility, and frustration, from poverty, homelessness, helplessness. Help us to be mastered only by the masters of love and compassion, wisdom and determination. Let integrity never stand on the auction block or be sold to the highest bidder. Free us from the shackles of partisan politics, political correctness, and personal egos and agendas. Deliver us from evil and lead them not into all of the temptations and intoxications that shall abound. O God, O God, O God, O God, O God, end the civil wars and usher in a new reconstruction era that builds upon the many successes and achievements of yesterday while proclaiming the beginning of a new beginning. Let the plantation called New York City be the city of God, a city set upon the hill, a light shining in darkness. Elevate our valleys, make low our mountains, make our crooked places straight and our rough places smooth. O God, O God, O God.
Oh God. Oh God. When I hear that, I think, wow, he is really centering in on the idea of slavery and exploitation and making things better through ostensibly the leadership of Bill de Blasio, the new mayor, and how that will change it. Talking about equality as well, and that was a big theme in the inauguration. I will say that I think we all pray for our leaders, and I have no problem in doing that. My problem is general comment about the left. They believe that an elected official will lose their fallen nature and desire to fulfill their self-interest and act in their self-interest. They believe that you can suspend human nature, or rather it evolves. This doesn't happen. We know we're fallen. And obviously within our own federal constitution, this is built in with the separation of powers and checks and balances and understanding the form of limited government, and specifically the federal government, and understanding that if a state decides to go over the line in government power, well, somebody can leave that state. When the government does it, you got to leave the country, and well, you get my point. There is a theme that we will be hitting again and again, ad nauseum, arguably. And it's important to you and me because it really gets to what this whole thing is all about. You see, what they want to do is make everything equal, okay? But that will make everybody poorer, as I just cut to the chase there for Margaret Thatcher's line on these types of policies. And meanwhile, you'll have the ruling class, and they'll always be placed above everybody else, economically and otherwise. And those connected with the ruling class, which become part of the ruling class. This is really obvious, and I know you understand, but they can go out and attack trickle-down economics as if to say, as Bill de Blasio did, oh, hey, it's the fortunate at the top will have to pay more through redistribution. And those funds will be redistributed to specific constituencies. And if those grow enough, obviously you'll secure your power. But it only works as long as you don't run out of other people's money. And sooner or later you do, because the producers say, you know what? I want to produce and be able to reap the rewards and the benefits and the fruits of my labor, because I believe I can do it better than a government, state or federal. That all said, the inauguration continued. Oh, what about the slavery thing? I'm tired of it. Slavery was an awful institution. We all know that. It's disgusting. And if you give people a sense that anyway, New York is like a plantation, well, that's asinine. There's nothing more to say about that. You got to have an IQ below room temperature, or you must sit there and think to yourself, you're deluded. Absolutely. Not a clue. This is why I don't like Nazi references oftentimes. And I have never really been a fan of those. I can see how power lines up, and both sides have made them. And I can see how you could look at the situation, especially now in the world with Israel and, well, 1938 all over again, in Czechoslovakia, the idea of that. I'll get to that with Pastor Aaron Free. But I'm not comfortable with it because you have a big leap to make before you're actually putting people into ovens. And that's part of why I can see how power lines up, and I understand what's happening with government power. I'm not blind to it, and I can see that. But I much rather focus on the transfer of power, or the taking of power, as President Obama has been doing, incidentally, rather than, putting the Nazi reference on it. Because I think you've got to be careful with those, because those are specific times in our history, and awful ones, as we've seen with slavery and what we saw with Nazi Germany. That all said, they focus on inequality. Who focuses on inequality? Well, Bill Clinton was there. That's right, swearing in. Wasn't he impeached for lying under oath? Why don't you forgive, Crane? I do forgive. I just don't think that it was looked at as all politics, and he lied under oath. He was impeached for that, and he was disbarred, I thought. But That said, he was swearing in de Blasio, and then he had some comments to make about sharing de Blasio's vision, the new mayor's vision. Roll it.
Our beloved city is no stranger to big struggles and no stranger to overcoming them. New York has faced fiscal collapse and a crime epidemic, terrorist attacks, and natural disasters. But now, in our time, we face a different crisis, an inequality crisis.
I strongly endorse Bill de Blasio's core campaign commitment. This inequality problem bedevils the entire country, and I can tell you from my work, much of the world.
And again, the policies that they're putting into place will make a greater gap between the two. If you want to go there, I don't really give a rip about inequality. I give a rip about freedom, opportunity, protecting that, and the ability to use our God-given gifts and not penalizing people who do. God bless you who do use your God-given gifts, because I believe when you're blessed through your success and hard work, that you actually know better what to do with money. Money not being the idea of worshiping money, but rather the idea of what you do with your money and plug it in. I want to earn a lot of money. I'll make no mistake about that. I'm not going to apologize for it. But not because of money, but because of what can be done with the money and where I can plug it in, be it an organization, AFA, AFR, or a church that rescues children out of sex slavery, women specifically. Amazing thing. Thinking of a Pastor Crank talks about this a fair amount. Anyway, long story short, I believe that 60 to 90 cents on a dollar going to help people who are addicted, etc., or some form of need in health is far better than 30 cents through a government structure that overtakes and oversteps. That all said, I move now to how it's patriotic to sign up for Obamacare. This is Dr. Snyder of NBC, MSNBC. She's on Morning Joe, speaking to the issue of single payer and what can be done to actually fix Obamacare, and how she made her children sign up because it's patriotic. Roll it.
Well, I think there should be a single-payer system, and increasingly, you're seeing physicians in their late 50s, 60s, and 70s who are saying, you know what, we got it wrong. We should have taken Medicare and expanded it and done it smarter. Increase the bottom line for doctors so they don't feel like they're being nickeled and dimed with 10% less than Medicare. Docs just want to be reimbursed a fair amount for hard work, and this is making the terrain much, much, much more difficult.
How do we get the young and how do we get the healthy to sign up for health care, which was a dynamic prior to Obamacare? How do we get the young and how do we get the healthy to get health? That was the reason they came up with the plan.
No, I made my kids sign up because I just said this is your patriotic duty.
Now that sounds a lot. It sounds a lot like Joe Biden did in 2008. You remember this? Roll it.
John's a good guy and Barack's a good. Everybody's a good guy. Fundamental philosophy difference. Take a look. We want to take money and put it back in the pocket of middle-class people.
Anybody making over $250,000 is going to pay more.
You got it. It's time to be patriotic, Kate. Time to jump in. Time to be part of the deal. Time to help get America out of the rut. And the way to do that is they're still going to pay less taxes than they paid under Reagan.
And I want to thank the right. There's two websites I want to thank for this. They actually had these in the same place. That all said, I'll thank after the break to make sure I attribute credit where credit's due to link those. But bottom line, when you hear about patriotism and saying it's about paying more to a government and equality, and the government's going to make us all equal. Remember, that means everybody gets poorer unless you're deeply connected to the government, and you'll probably not end up with as much, but they will be calling the shots of what you do and how you do it. It's about power as well. Believe in freedom. Believe in your God-given abilities. God loves you. God knows you. He created you. You have a purpose. Government looks at you as an object. God looks at you for what you are, a creation. in his image. Crane Durham's Nothing But Truth. Aaron Free next. AFR Talk.